As they stared at each other, Lee was the first to speak, immediately shutting him down. No. Surprised, Kim asked, "Why not?" Lee scoffed, her frustration evident. "To teach you martial arts, do you even know what that requires?" She leaned in slightly, emphasizing her point. "We'd have to be close, hugging, sweating, smelling each other. Do you think I want to do that with you? Just go to a gym." Kim muttered under his breath, "I can't go to a gym?" "Why not?" Lee asked, folding her arms. "All my bullies are there," he admitted reluctantly, his gaze dropping to the ground. "That's your problem," she shot back. "I'm not about to roll around with a loser. You figure out fighting on your own, and I'll take care of my own studies." Turning on her heel, she began to walk away. Kim stood there, frustrated and defeated, thinking it was a fair offer. But before he could dwell on it too long, he noticed the bullies beginning to wake up. Panic set in. Without a second thought, Kim turned and bolted, sprinting down the dimly lit street. That night, Kim replayed the recent fight in his mind. That fight was no joke. Even the bullies I've seen never fought like that. He vividly recalled the knee to the neck, the punch to the face, and the sharp elbow strike. If I could learn to fight like that, how great would my life be? The next morning, Kim's mom was getting ready to leave for work. She turned to him and said, "I left sandwiches on the counter. Make sure to give one to Lee, okay?" "What? Give it to Lee?" he repeated, incredulous. "Yes," his mom said firmly. "Please, just do it for me." Kim immediately regretted agreeing. Seeing her in the morning is kind of intimidating, he thought. But then again, since we're living together, it's not that weird, right? After psyching himself up, he walked upstairs, sandwich in hand. As he stood outside her door, he knocked hesitantly and called her name. No response. If I open that door without permission, he thought, I'll get a one-way ticket to heaven. Deciding to avoid the risk, he bent down to leave the sandwich at her door. Just as he was about to walk away, Lee's voice called out, "Come in." Surprised, Kim opened the door cautiously. There she was, still getting ready. His eyes widened in shock, and before he could speak, Lee glanced at him and said flatly, "Pervert." "What are you thinking?" Sorry, Kim stammered, holding up the sandwich as if it were a peace offering. "Just leave it there and go," Lee said nonchalantly, ignoring him as she continued her morning routine. In a hurry, Kim placed the sandwich on the table. But as he turned to leave, something on the table caught his eye. Kim squinted, leaning in closer. "Is that a workbook?" He paused, recalling what Lee had said about coming to Seoul alone to study. "Wait, hold on. An elementary school workbook?" he muttered, stunned. His eyes darted to the other books scattered on the table. They were all elementary level, filled with words like banana and grape. This is only for kids, he thought, now remembering how she mentioned she never had a proper education. Just then, Lee came out of the bathroom and froze, surprised to see him. "You're still here? Leave!" she yelled. Kim stammered, still in disbelief. "Hey, Lee Min-chae, you're not working on these now, are you?" Lee glanced at the workbooks he was pointing to and grew visibly agitated. She cornered him, snapping, "Do I look like your friend just because I talk to you? What are you doing snooping around here? You just love poking into other people's things? Get out." Before Kim left, he hesitated at the door and turned back to Lee. "Hey, about what I asked you yesterday," he started. "I was wondering if you changed your mind. You know, if I teach you how to study, will you teach me how to fight?" He paused, watching her closely, knowing she had dreams of going to university. "The academy won't take you in if your reading level is too low, and it'll be tough to study alone. Maybe you should get a tutor." Lee, visibly irritated, grabbed one of the elementary books from the table and threw it at the door as it slammed shut. Later that night, as Kim headed upstairs, his mom called after him, reminding him to bring the sweet potatoes to Lee. He groaned, feeling frustrated with all the tasks he kept getting assigned for her. As he walked up the stairs, Lee suddenly appeared, shouting, "Why do you keep creeping around someone's room?" Kim, surprised by her sudden appearance, wondered what she was doing as he originally thought she was in her room. Kim looked at her for a moment, then said, "My mom told me to bring these sweet potatoes to you." Kim hesitated but explained further, "I was just doing what my mom asked me to do." Lee then told him to stay still and began walking up the stairs. Kim watched her in silence, wondering what was going to happen next. Once at the top of the stairs, Lee turned to him and said, "I've been rejected from 3 academies already, all because my reading level is too low. It's not going to get me anywhere." Kim, remembering how much her reading level mattered, understood the weight of her situation. After a pause, Lee finally said, "I'll teach you how to fight if you teach me how to study." Kim blinked, surprised by her offer, but eager to learn. Deal. It was their first night of tutoring each other, and Kim had taken out a marker, preparing for what he called basic English class. He asked Lee, "Do you know what this means?" As he pointed at a word on the board. Lee looked at the word, confused. "I don't know." Kim then asked, "Do you know how to spell bus in English?" Lee hesitated. "I don't know." Kim was surprised by her lack of knowledge. He realized that Lee didn't know the basics and would need to start from the very beginning, learning the alphabet. "Hey, it's not a crime not to know this," Lee said, trying to ease the tension. Kim tells her that they will start from the beginning. He could see Lee's situation was more serious than he'd initially thought. Later that same night, they decided to switch to the fighting lessons. Lee, eager to get started, said, "If you want to know what kind of guy you're up against, you have to gather information." Kim, still curious, asked, "Is that something you do for fighting?" "Of course," Lee answered. "How else would you know how to exploit their weaknesses?" The next day, they went outside to investigate their enemies. Lee pointed to one of the bullies. "Is that the guy you're going to fight?" Kim nodded. "Yes." Lee, looking around, noticed a few of the bullies lighting up cloud makers. She glanced at the new challenge Lee instructed him. "Lift me up higher." Kim struggled. "You're too heavy." He says Lee with a smirk teased, "I'm not that heavy. Do you want to die?" She responded. As the bullies blew out clouds of smoke, they started discussing the fight coming up later. Sangbom, one of the bullies, agreed with a smirk. "Yeah, this guy's been a pain for me for a while." Another bully asked, "Where are you fighting?" Sangbom replied confidently, "After school, in the underground parking lot." Lee, overhearing the conversation, realized a fight was about to go down. She turned to Kim and said, "We should go watch." Kim hesitated, but agreed. "Fine, but calm down first." "You're too heavy." Lee, whispering in secrecy, shot back. "Do you want to die?" "I'm not that big." As they were watching the bullies, Lee's weight made it difficult for them to move steadily, and they both wobbled. Suddenly, they lost their balance, and Kim face-planted into the ground with a loud thud. The bullies, hearing the noise, muttered to each other, "What was that?" Later that day, Kim stood by, getting ready to watch the fight. "Why are we even watching this?" he asked. Lee replied with a grin. "Isn't it obvious? We're here to observe." "Do you want to beat that guy up?" Lee asked, noticing Kim's eagerness. "Yes," Kim responded. "Then listen carefully to what I say and keep your eyes on the fight," Lee instructed. Kim, feeling more like an Uber driver than a fighter, muttered, "Am I really learning how to fight?" Lee smirked. "Doubting me?" "We're on different levels, so of course you've got to carry the bags." Kim realized then that Lee must have been a bully in her past, just like the others. Lee then tells him, "Let's get going then." In the underground parking lot, several gangsters and bullies were gathered around. Some popular girls from school stood off to the side. The red-haired girl looked at Lee and asked, "Aren't you the new student?" "Yeah, that's me," Lee replied. The girl raised an eyebrow. "Are you here to watch the fight too?" "Yeah, I'm just bored. Here to watch." Lee said nonchalantly. The red-haired girl, holding a cloud maker, eyed Lee with a smirk. I heard you were a bully at your old school too. Do you want one? She offered the cloud maker to Lee. No thanks, Lee replied. I just had one before coming. The red-haired girl, still curious, glanced at Kim. Who's that guy behind you? Don't mind him, Lee said nonchalantly. Just a friend of mine. Kim, hiding behind a hood, glasses, and a mask, felt his heart race. He knew that losers like him weren't supposed to be at a fight like this. The orange-haired girl suddenly spoke up. The fight's about to start. Lee nudged Kim. Watch closely. Two men stood facing each other in the center of the parking lot, surrounded by a crowd. The fight was moments away. Sangbam sneered at his opponent. Why are you so annoying? The other guy, clearly frustrated, shot back. Stop messing around. You broke my friend's finger. Sangbam shrugged nonchalantly. It was an accident during soccer. The other man glared at him. Then you should apologize. Sangbam smirked and, with a mocking tone, said, Sure, sorry, while placing a hand on the other guy's shoulder. But then, without warning, Sangbam dug his thumb into the man's left eye. Sorry to your eyeballs, he taunted as the crowd gasped. The man screamed in pain, staggering backward as Sangbam's punch sent him reeling. The man with black hair, furious, lunged at Sangbam, ready to retaliate. But Sangbam swiftly used his foot to push him away, then followed up with a punch that sent the man crashing to the ground. Standing over the defeated opponent, Sangbam grinned, looking down at the crowd. That was easy? The girls around him swooned, their eyes filled with admiration. Kim and Lee continued to watch, each processing the brutal scene in their own way. Sangbam, feeling confident, decided to finish the fight with his signature soccer kick to the opponent's head. With a mocking smile, he added, You shouldn't be talking so much. The man, lying on the ground, tears mixing with blood, weakly pleaded, I'm sorry. Please, let's stop here. But it was too late. Kim, watching in disbelief, was shocked by the amount of blood and teeth lost during the brutal fight. Sangbam, without mercy, turned to Kim and said, You're apologizing here, right? You got mad because I broke your friend's finger? That finger mean a lot to you? He then grabbed a nearby fire hydrant and pressed it hard against the man's fingers. The man screamed in agony. Later, on a playground, Kim was holding his head in frustration. I can't win against him, he muttered. Lee, annoyed, snapped, Stop whining. 1 month, that's all it'll take. Kim stared at her, confused. What, 1 month? Lee nodded firmly. You heard me. In 1 month, you can beat him. Kim hesitated, the weight of the challenge pressing on him. Do you want to do this or not? Lee asked. Kim paused, then nodded slowly, determination growing in his chest. But can I really beat Sangbam? Kim thought to himself, fear creeping in. He knew the stakes were high, but he also knew he had nothing to lose. I'm a loser anyway. If I lose, I'll just go back to being a loser. Nothing changes, he reasoned. All right, let's do this. 1 month later, Sangbam, smug as ever, spoke to Kim. I'm going abroad, and I'm counting on you to help me cheat. You better not let me down. Kim and Lee had already made it up the stairs when she stopped him. Are you ready? She asked, reminding him that he promised to challenge Sangbam in a month. Kim hesitated, looking nervous. I don't know. I'm too scared. Can we just not fight? Lee's face darkened with anger. Are you serious? You've wasted an entire month preparing, and now you're quitting without even trying? She grabbed his arm, her frustration clear. I'll handle it. You're a loser if you back out now. Just follow my lead. In their classroom, the midterm tests had begun. The teacher warned them that cheating was strictly prohibited and that anyone caught would automatically get a 0. Lee, ever resourceful, had a different plan. She scribbled a note and threw it at Sangbam. Kim noticed Sangbam looking at him with a grin, clearly expecting him to help with the test. It only took him 5 minutes to have the answers ready for me to cheat, Sangbam mused. Kim, confused, wondered why Sangbom was looking at him as he hadn't even started answering yet. Sangbom opened the note with a smile, but his expression quickly soured. His eyes twitched in irritation as he read the note, realizing that Kim wanted to fight him. His face twisted with anger and his fists clenched, ready to tear Kim apart.